اشتري صورة صدام صورة صدام. ألف ألف.
You can get cheaper in the market. And better.
Something to remind me. Just as well you're used to war, I suppose.
You are welcome here.
Goodbye then.
Newsnight now on BBC Two with Jeremy Paxman.
Prime Minister's finally agreed that there should be an inquiry into why this country decided to embark on the bloody and apparently endless war in Iraq. But even though it's 5 years this Wednesday since the war began, now is not the time for such an investigation. You'll recall that Tony Blair said intelligence on Saddam Hussein's supposed weapons of mass destruction was extensive, detailed and authoritative. It was nothing of the sort. In a moment I'll be talking to the former Cabinet Secretary Lord Butler about whether Blair lied. First though, a quick reprise of a bit of tonight's 10 Days to War, in which we're recreating how we got into Iraq.
Okay, now, you understand why we are here. We are the biological weapons team of Unmoving.
تعرف مين احنا وليش احنا هون صح؟
We are milk factory.
No, but that's what we're here to determine, that you are making milk products and not anthrax or staphylococcal bioenterotoxin.
Nothing.
No, listen, we know that facilities like yours have been used in the past for the manufacture of banned biological weapons.
Well, Lord Butler, who was called upon to conduct an inquiry into the origins of the war, is with us now. When Tony Blair said the intelligence was extensive, detailed and authoritative, it was none of those things. Was he lying?
He said that the picture that was presented by the intelligence community to him was extensive, detailed and authoritative, and indeed that was what the intelligence community was telling him. And of course it wasn't just what the intelligence community was telling him, it was what most of the other intelligence bodies of the world were also saying. Even Hans Blix, when he set out to Iraq, said that he thought that Saddam had got this stuff.
So was he naive?
Well, I think that when he said, you've got to believe this is intelligence, that was a bit disingenuous, because intelligence, you've got to have intelligence, but intelligence is often wrong, and in this case it wasn't very good intelligence. And the intelligence community in a situation like that has got to reach the best conclusion that it can. But Iraq was an extremely hard target to crack.
Well, it was laughably wrong, wasn't it, in this case? I mean, it was grotesquely wrong. So the fault was on the part of the intelligence services to present a picture which was exhaustive, detailed and authoritative.
Yes, but very few other intelligence agencies in the world were more successful. In fact, I would say none were more successful, and for very good reasons. It was a most extraordinary situation.
Saddam, they're professionals. I mean, they know the fallibility of intelligence. They're supposed to know it.
Yes, but you're dealing here with not only a police state, but a tyranny in which people were executed even on suspicion.
That makes it even more necessary to be cautious, doesn't it?
Well, yes, but you've got to reach a conclusion. You know, if you're asked the question, do we believe that Saddam has got this very dangerous stuff? Do we believe that he's in breach of the Security Council resolutions? It's no good saying, well, we're not sure.
Why not?
What was said was...
Why can't you say you're not sure? Well, we don't have the intelligence.
What the agencies said was that our intelligence is thin. we haven't really known much about chemical and biological weapons since the UN inspectors left.
I thought you said they just said it was
1997.
exhaustive, detailed and authoritative.
The picture that they presented, the conclusion that they presented, was firmly that he had the stuff. That was the picture that they presented to ministers. And Tony Blair did not mislead us when he said that that was what the intelligence community was telling him.
But they had misled him, albeit perhaps you would say unintentionally.
Well, they did their best, I think, in a very difficult situation. And they
were completely wrong.
But they did warn him. They did warn him that the intelligence base was thin. And that didn't appear in the dossier.
So it can't be exhaustive, authoritative and detailed, can it, if it's thin?
Well, the evidence base was as the best they could do, but they warned ministers that it was sporadic and patchy. And that was what we said in our review, that it was a serious weakness of the dossier, that those reservations on the end about the strength of the intelligence base weren't included.
It was a serious weakness of the dossier which cost lives.
Well, it cost lives. I mean, what cost lives was the decision to go to war. And that's
Which was taken on the basis of the dossier.
And it was not only taken on the basis of the dossier, it was taken on the basis that Saddam was in breach of the Security Council resolutions of the UN.
The Prime Minister told us we were going to war to disarm Saddam Hussein.
Yes, but he said that we were going to war to enforce the Security Council resolutions that the UN had passed.
Which were to disarm him?
Which were that he should not acquire these weapons and that he should not be in breach. But yes, but it was a very dangerous situation. With the oil for food program, Saddam had all the money that he wanted. There was a lot of nuclear stuff lying about in the former Soviet Union, and there was A.Q. Khan.
Sure, but he was in Pakistan and the nuclear stuff was in Russia.
But I think it's easy to forget how dangerous the world was then.
But that wasn't why we were told we were going to war. Not to stop him getting it in the future, but to get him to hand over what he'd already got.
Well, it was partly to stop him getting it in the future. We thought he was trying to get a nuclear weapon. We'd found at the end of the first Gulf War, he was much nearer to having a nuclear weapon than anybody had supposed. And he had the money and the wherewithal to do it, and almost certainly the will.
You've seen all the papers. You've seen the minutes of the Cabinet discussions, and I understand that you believe they should not be published. But on the basis of what you've seen, was there, in your judgment, a healthy discussion in Cabinet in which alternative points of view were put forward by credible figures within the Cabinet?
Well, we said in our report we would very much have preferred the Cabinet to have been conducted differently. There were very good papers written by officials which weren't circulated to the Cabinet. There were a lot of discussions, but mainly on the basis of oral presentations, and not enough, in our view, opportunity for ministers to be properly briefed on them before they came to the meeting and knew what they had to decide.
Did Gordon Brown speak out against the war?
That you can't tell from the Cabinet minutes because interventions are not attributed to individual people.
The real problem, I suppose, if you're in intelligence or indeed a Prime Minister who considers the country to be in grave danger, is whether you would have any authority at all if you went to the people and said, look, we've got very good intelligence on this. There is a serious risk to this country. If people can't believe it, that's a big problem, isn't it?
Well, Jeremy, the point is that intelligence is never completely reliable.
Well, as we've now discovered.
Well, as we always knew. I mean, we've only got to think back to the Second World War and think how we deceived the Germans by misleading them with phony intelligence. So the thing about intelligence is it really is important. You know, in this century where you can land a weapon on a sixpence, you've got to know which sixpence to land it on. And for that you need intelligence. But it is a risky art, and it's not uniquely worthy of credibility. I think, you know, the lesson from this is you have got to suck with a very long spoon when you're dealing with intelligence. The intelligence people do their best.
All right.
But they're not.
Robin Butler, Lord Butler, thank you very much indeed. Oh, I can't apparently tell you the papers for some reason. Tomorrow night, though, at 10:30 on BBC Two, you can see the next episode of 10 Days to War. After diplomacy fails at the United Nations, MPs are preparing to vote on whether to go to war. It's a vote the government has to win. You can...
are you going to vote?
Well, it's very difficult.
How are you going to vote? Question mark.
And you can watch the previous episodes on the BBC iPlayer and the 10 Days to War website, where you'll find a wealth of background information and see how Newsnight reported the 10 Days to War in 2003. You can also tell us what you think about the dramas. I can now tell you what the newspapers throw. How bad will the crisis get is the front page of the Daily Mail. Dash for cash as banks feel the squeeze on the front page of the Times. It's also on the front page of the Independent and on the front page of the Financial Times, and indeed on the front page of The Guardian, along with Heather Mills after her divorce. That's all from Newsnight tonight. I had a letter from a cartoonist this morning which ended with the news, well, news to me anyway, that the cat flap was invented by Sir Isaac Newton. Makes you proud to be British, doesn't it? Good night.